I've started the recording in Zencaster, so all that stuff beforehand, that was pre-show. It's safe. No one will ever hear again. Only the special people who showed up early. And look at all you wonderful people in
I
Discord.
know,
Thank you for
yeah,
showing
this is a
up.
bunch.
This is fantastic. We will start in just a moment here then. Mandi, you want to say something so I can make sure I see something in Zencaster for your mic?
Yeah. Can you
Yep,
still
that's
hear
it.
me okay?
You're good.
Okay.
You are perfect.
Sorry if there's
Everything's
any
good.
internet lag. It's probably actually more my computer than the internet.
Well,
I've
so
been
far,
there.
so good.
I've been there really badly.
And I'm the editor for our podcast. I fix all lagging issues. It's all good.
Oh, lagging issues are a joy on podcast recordings, aren't they?
They happen. They do.
They do.
Okay. I think we're ready to get started here.
Hi there, and welcome to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where father and son, and sometimes some other people, sit down and talk about fantasy literature. I'm the son in that equation, Zach.
And that makes me the father, Jim. Welcome, everybody, to a very special episode today. We'll talk
Indeed.
about exactly what that'll be in just a minute, but let's go through some of our regular stuff. Zach, how are you doing today?
You beat me to it. Well, it's a nice day. I recently got back from a wedding where some of my closest friends got married after way too many years. But I got to spend time in Alaska, and that was really nice. And now I'm just trying to get myself back on a normal-ish schedule before I inevitably move to Texas.
Yeah, that's less than a week away now.
Yeah, that's terrifying in a very good way.
I'm almost finally going to get my house back to just my wife and I. Yay!
Oh yeah, there's at least 2 rooms you're getting back. The one I sleep in and the one that I do all of this and D&D inside of.
But seriously, we've loved having you here. That's never a problem. But yeah, it'll be nice. We're not going to suffer empty nest syndrome. And thanks to the podcast, you and I will stay regularly connected, even though you'll be all the way down in Texas.
Yes, the real reason we're doing the podcast, so that I remember to talk to you. Anyways, how you doing, Dad?
I am doing great. It was a pretty regular work week for me this week, and I'm busy planning for more travels that are coming up, including helping you get to Texas. As we made those hotel reservations kind of important, so we don't drive
Just a
for
little bit.
14 hours in a day and then find out, oh, there's no room in the inn. So we're
See,
good.
if it was
we're
just
set.
me, I'm
Just
of a
sleep in your
mind where I
car.
just sleep in my car at a rest stop, but I'm not doing that to Mom. So
That's smart. That's really smart. All right. Well, before I find out what you're drinking today, Zach, some
Yes.
details to note that are just amazing things about the podcast. You know, this is episode 47 for us now.
that
And
many already?
Yeah. And we keep picking up more listeners. Just blows me away. You know, when we first started out, you were hoping, like you said, maybe 5 people would find us and listen to this
Yeah,
thing.
most of them being family, but at least one that wasn't.
I checked our numbers this morning. We have over 19,000 downloads now. It's crazy. Crazy. Mind-blowing. And we picked up since the last time, because it's been 2 weeks since we recorded, actually. We've got 6 new countries with people listening now.
Ooh, let's hear 'em.
Mexico, Morocco, Iran, Mongolia. No, Mongolia we had before. So
We still love
okay.
Mongolia, but we already had you.
That's right. South Africa.
We also may have already had South
and
Africa.
New Zealand. We finally have New Zealand in there. We had
Ooh.
Australia. Now we've got New Zealand, the land of Lord of the Rings. So yay.
I keep saying we should have a spreadsheet so we can keep track of these, but we haven't done it yet. So
one of these days. But so all of you who end up listening to this, wherever you are from, thank you. It's just a lot of fun for us to do this. It's even more fun knowing people are paying attention and care. So if it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're listening, thanks for coming along as we journey through Wheel of Time and then occasionally jump into other fantasy conversations too. We also finally got another rating on Apple Podcast. You know, all these downloads and we had 5 ratings. I said, guys, come on, help us out. Now we have 6. Thankfully, they are all 5-star ratings. We do appreciate that. But anybody else, you're out there, toss us a star. Well, no, toss us 5 stars, please. Not a star.
You can toss us 1, but
no,
it
don't
sends
do
a
that.
different message.
Also, one last note here. We have a new person who joined our Discord earlier this week.
It was
from
very exciting.
France.
We got
Very
confirmation
exciting.
that we actually have French listeners.
We have tons of downloads in France, and we're sure those are mostly VPNs going through France. There's no way that many people in France are listening to us. But this one legit said, hey, I am from France. Specifically said, Taishar from Baguetteland, which was great. So fantastic. I'm not going to insult him with a French accent here because that would be horrible of me.
That's a
But
good idea.
so glad to have more people and confirmation. The French are here. Yes. All right. Zach, what are you drinking today?
Funny story. So I made a plan. I was going to have a nice cocktail. It was going to be coffee related. It was going to be fun, delicious, warm. I didn't actually go downstairs to see that the coffee pot was empty until about 20-30 minutes before we started recording here.
Oops.
So I didn't make more coffee. So that plan went right out the window. And instead I just picked up a truly mango lemonade. So it'll do in a pinch.
Okay.
But I imagine your plan went off a little better. So what are you drinking, Dad?
Well, I made one of our original WoT tales again for this episode, but it's a fairly simple one. To be honest, it's just a double shot of Southern Comfort. But the reason is, if you look at a bottle of Southern Comfort, it's made by, this will be on our Instagram, but it's made by M.W. Heron. So this is my double heron cocktail. Very appropriate as we finish the great hunt.
Twice and twice. Good enough.
Ding, ding, ding.
I dig it.
Me too. It's pretty tasty. Southern Comfort. Hard to go wrong. All right. I am very excited now to introduce some guests that we have with us today. And we're going to do this first by finding out what they're drinking as they join us
Perfect
here.
way to get guests in here.
Absolutely. First up, we have for this special episode, Rob of the Malkier Talks Podcast and a few other things. Rob, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Hanging in there. I mean, we win our whole thing.
Excited. Glad you're here.
I felt bad about the drinking thing because I was uber prepared. And I immediately, when I was hearing this talk of double Southern Comfort, looked at my liquor cabinet, which is in no comparison to Jim's. I've seen Jim's. And I was like, what's in there? Some port I do not enjoy. I'm waiting to save for cocktails. A bottle of wine I'm saving for cooking, or it's a very small bottle of wine I'm saving for cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And then just a bottle of Sambuca. So I am drinking a shot of white Sambuca.
That will work. There it is.
Fantastic. Oh, and the shot's gone.
And the shot's gone. It's 10 past 10 at night. Who cares?
That's right. That's right.
But yeah.
So, Rob, tell us a little bit about your podcast and any of the other content you want to throw out here.
So I do a spoilers podcast. It's mostly theories, sometimes plausible, sometimes wild and wacky. Sometimes it's just interviews or general conversations. It's a lot of fun. I've had some amazing episodes, all sorts of different things, but like Michael and Kate from the audiobooks has been on. Just a lot of fun things. Aside from that, I do one or two other things. I have a YouTube channel where I cook or narrate, and there's live streams there. That's a bit of fun. And then I make jokes on Twitter, and
jokes.
Tam jokes. Yes, they are Tam jokes. Yes. And then following on from that, pretty much if it's not an event organized by the Dusty Wheel that's live on YouTube, it's probably me running it because I'm just a sucker for doing Wheel of Time stuff. So yeah. But if you just search Malkier Talks, you can find me almost anywhere except Facebook. Because I don't
most
like Facebook.
places except for dying platforms. Not
Yes.
Facebook, maybe a MySpace. I don't know.
I don't MySpace. I have a MySpace. It's definitely not a Malkier Talks MySpace, but I have a MySpace. I'm sure if I went and looked, I could find my MySpace and be like, oh Lord, please just burn that, bale fire it, bear fire it, bear fire it, whatever fire it. So.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, I do have a MySpace as well. I'm sure it's never been deactivated. It's got to be there. Scary.
MySpace is probably hidden somewhere on like the dark web. That's the portion of the dark web that's not illegal. It's just that shouldn't exist, so we'll hide that in the dusty corner of the dark web type. So yeah, that's where MySpace is. So.
All right. Well, again, thank you for being here. Glad to have you, and this is going to be fun having you as part of the conversation today.
Thank you.
Also with us today, we have the dynamic duo from the Gleeman's Apprentice podcast, Twitch and Mandicat. So welcome and tell us what are you drinking and what do you want us to know about your podcast?
First of all, thank you so much for inviting us today. I am drinking. We live in a really small town, and we have a really good, competitive, high quality brewery. And I went to the liquor store today to see what I should get. And they started making their blood orange IPA again, which I was really excited about because it's one of the best beers I've ever had in my life. So I am drinking out of my Dusty Wheel Frosty mug, the blood orange IPA.
It looks right in color.
I love it. Looks
It's
good.
It's so
Looks good. How about you, Mandicat? What do you want to say?
Yeah, I just have to say I'm drinking water because 16 weeks pregnant. So anyone who wants to shoot some
Fair
great
enough.
real-time names my way, go for it. I'll accept them all. Doesn't mean I'll give them the time of day, but I'd love to read what you got for me. So, but super happy to be on here, and we were saying this is my first chance to be a guest on someone's. So thank you guys so much.
We are honored that we got to be the first one for you. That's fantastic. And I know your sound is coming through because they're all congratulating you that you are with child. So that's fantastic. And you guys heard her. She's looking for Wheel of Time names. So start throwing them out there. Come up with the good things.
But wait, what book are you on, Mandicat? Is book 4 now?
I'm
Book
Only
5?
book
currently
4.
reading book 4, so we're in is that the Shadow Rising?
The Shadow
Yeah,
Rising.
Shadow
That's
Rising.
right.
Nothing after the Shadow Rising.
That's
if you're gonna
right.
throw
Don't
names out,
spoil
folks.
for a great name
Yeah.
that comes from book 10 or something. Okay, don't do that to her.
Although because she does know the Bard of Time Androl, I told her that that can be an option if she chooses.
Well, there you go.
That is true. Yeah.
All right.
On a note of where people are in the books and such, I think we all know, but both for chat and for us here today, we're only going to go through the first 2 books today. There are some people who are not much further than that here with us today or who might listen. So we're going to try and keep it as spoiler-full as we can in only the first 2 books.
Yes, we do, in fact, in the Discord have with us our first-time reader from our server. So she crammed to get through the end of the Great Hunt so she could jump on live with us for the first time today. So we will not mess it up for her.
I have to point out, I did notice that you put in all the different book segments in the Discord, and I popped back after I think maybe a week and looked, and I was like, there's like 500 messages in this chat, and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to keep up with this. So now it makes sense because
we are
they
all living
were cramming.
vicariously through her as she just blazes through and shares her journal of what she's experiencing, and it's so much fun. So glad that she's with us today.
Indeed.
All right, to finish up our coverage of the Great Hunt and then to spring us into what we're going to talk about today, we are going to read live now chapter 50, which of course is extremely small. It doesn't even fill 2 pages, just 4 paragraphs. So here we
Honestly,
go.
if it weren't for a chapter heading, it wouldn't fill 1 page.
No, it wouldn't, but here it is. It's a good place to start. So chapter 50, which is called After.
By ship and horse the story spread, by merchant wagon and man on foot, told and retold, changing yet always alike at the heart, to arid Doman and Terabon and beyond, of signs and portents in the sky above Falm, and men proclaimed themselves for the dragon, and other men struck them down and were struck down in turn.
Other tales spread of a column that rode from the sinking sun across Almoth Plain. 100 bordermen, it was said. No, 1,000. No, 1,000 heroes come back from the grave to answer the call of the Horn of the Lear. 10,000. They had destroyed a legion of the Children of Light in Tyre. They had thrown Arthur Hawkwind's returned armies back into the sea. They were Arthur Hawkwind's armies returned. Toward the mountains they rode, toward the dawn.
Yet one thing every tale had the same. At their head rode a man, whose face had been seen in the sky above foam, and they rode under the banner of the dragon reborn.
And men cried out to the Creator, saying, O light of the heavens, light of the world, let the promised one be born of the mountain, according to the prophecies, as he was in ages past and will be in ages to come. Let the prince of the morning sing to the land that green things will grow and the valleys give forth lambs. Let the arm of the Lord of the Dawn shelter us from the dark, and the great sword of justice defend us. Let the dragon ride again on the winds of time.
From Charles Drianin de Kellerman, The Cycle of the Dragon, author unknown, The Fourth Age, the end of the second book of The Wheel of Time.
I'm just glad you had to do the names, because I wasn't down for that.
I feel that pain. I once narrated a script for Lauren for Unraveling the Pattern. It was about the drilling of the bore, and the names. Oh, so I feel that pain, Jim. I feel that pain.
You know, we believe with names, do it wrong, do it strong. That's all. Be confident. Go for it. All right, this was such a good book and such an epic finish as it just built and built and built and kaplam, wow. So some thoughts about that. First off, the first prompt I'm going to throw here has actually nothing to do with the book. Let's just get one thing out of the way. The Wheel of Time is confirmed for November on Amazon Prime now. Who's excited? Yeah.
Woo!
So much. Oh my gosh.
Man. So good. So good.
What was it they said in chat? If we have to. I'm joking. I was at work last night with the time difference when the poster was revealed, and I made my two workmates. I said, "Look, I'm going to put on the speaker. I'm going to be watching my phone as much as possible. I'm sorry, just have to suck it up and listen." And they were asking me questions, except when all the big things were happening, and I actually squealed in the kitchen when the poster was revealed because I saw the words November 21 at the bottom, and I was like, it's coming out November.
Yes.
That was my reaction.
Yes.
So yeah, and they both looked at me and giggled. So I was like, I don't care. I do not care. So.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Exciting. We've been
I also
waiting
then
so
said
long.
I'm not coming into November. I was like, I'm just taking November off. So
That's right. Now
Yeah,
we
the
know
whole
when to
month.
take time off. Absolutely. Okay, that's out of the way. Just felt we needed to address that. Okay.
It's a good thing to address.
That's
But
right.
now for the actual book.
Yeah. So
guess.
thinking of the Great Hunt, I just want to toss out a first question of what are our favorite parts and why? So what do you absolutely love about the Great Hunt and why does that do it for you? And you can have more than one favorite. Who wants to
I,
go?
Can I semi offensively say that it's one of my least favorite books of the Wheel
You
of Time?
can. Discord will tar and feather you, I'm sure, but you can say that. That's all right.
you know what, Zach? I respect that. I don't understand it. But you are completely welcome to your opinion. It's not my favorite. It's probably in my top 5, but I do think that it's the funnest ride. It's like out, at least for me. It is such a action roller coaster, but especially like those last 200-300 pages are so easy just to cruise through because it is such a intense ride, and it just kind of like it's like an avalanche. You can't get enough. You can't stop. And so like I said, I respect your opinion, but I don't get it. But then The Shadow Rising is not my favorite book, so there you go.
That's fair.
there we
No,
go. And I
for
think
similar reasons. Basically, for the exact same reason, it's why I don't love it as much. It just feels like a lot of everyone running around with their heads chopped off like chickens the entire book. And yes, there's good moments and there's really cool things that happen, but it's just like no one ever knows what's going on anywhere.
I love it. I'm here for the chaos.
There you go.
I love it.
I'm interested in what Mandi thinks now that Zach has just said it's his least favorite book. Like, but judging that she's on just the 4th book, like, without giving spoilers past book 2, obviously.
Yeah, I agree with Zach. Out of the first 4 books, this is my least favorite.
I'll take it.
It's just slow. It's just slow. Really interesting stuff happens, but I'm just saying out of all 4 books. And I do strangely, I really like Ingtar out of this whole book. I'm like, he was pretty dynamic, and I saw it coming even on my first read through. But I like him. I think he had redemption.
Basically, she just agreed with Zach. So
but
That's
also
right.
said that Ingtar is pretty great. So that's a call.
I mean, I personally, for me, I'm not going to say it's my least favorite book, but if I was ranking them from 1 to 14, 1 being the best and 14 being my least favorite, it probably would be in the lower half as opposed to the upper half for me personally. So
I know on my first time through, I felt similar to that it wasn't as great a great a book as some of the others, but on rereads, it has risen in my appreciation of it.
The crazy thing is, I think it's the other way around for me. I appreciated the epicness that you get at the end my first time, but since I'm like, eh. And that sounds like such a non-committal way to say I like it, but not that much.
I mean, it's a Robert Jordan Wheel of Time book, so it's freaking great, right?
Yeah.
It's like his worst book is still better than a lot of books I've read in my life.
Better than anything I could write.
Yeah. No, not me. I could totally top Robert Jordan. I'm just saying.
Whoa.
I'm joking. Completely joking. But I think I'm kind of on the same page with Jim. I have a hard time remembering that long ago. When I think I read it in the summer of '99 for the first time. So I can't really remember my first reactions, but I remember kind of struggling through the first half, but that second half made up for it. At least for me. At least for me. And then the more I read it, the more nuanced things I see. There's always foreshadowing in Robert Jordan's writings, so it's fun to like try and pick those out. And so like the more I've read it and the more I've listened to the audiobooks, I feel like that's definitely risen. I don't know if it's top 5, but it's right there. It's top 7. It's in that top half for me.
Okay.
Top 50%.
Okay. Well, whether it is one of your favorite books or lower half, you can still have parts that are your favorites. The parts of the book that you prefer, the events that happen that just, oh, that's cool. What are some of those for you? I'm going to give one.
Go for it.
I absolutely love the chapter Blade Master, where Rand earns his blade truly, because he does. He defeats the Blade Master, and then shortly thereafter loses his Heron Mark sword. And there's that irony there that he finally earns the right to wield this thing, and now he doesn't have it. It's like but the actual scene, the way that is written, the prose that Jordan wrote, that scene, that fight with, I just love it. That was an amazing moment in this book. So there's one from me. How about anybody else?
I mean, I have one that I can't fully talk about because of implications later on in the story for both listeners and people on this podcast right now. I can tell why, because it just the statement of that person, and for those that have read the series and understand who I'm talking about now, Twitch, you'll know who I'm talking about because we did an episode.
Yep.
It's just like that sparks so much like what's going on type discussion. So that one was always really intriguing, and just what the White Cloaks were up to at the end was really intriguing. Like it felt a bit, I don't know, I enjoy some of the politics that are in the book, so that one was quite an enjoyable thing for me. The epic scenes were great. They were epic, but yeah, it was just the nuances that were in there were more interesting to me than the big grand stuff, because I don't know, just it pulls me in more especially as I read it more and more. So maybe because there's grander things later on the story, on a reread, the nuances grab me more than the grander things. I don't know.
I think there's truth there. There it is. Yeah.
I think my favorite thing really coming out of the book is really getting to see some of the other Shadow Spawn type things more clearly than the first book. The first book was a lot of Trollocs and some Myrdrill here and there, and now with the second book we get a little bit more description of the Drakkar and what they actually do, and we get Grey Men, and dark friends abound again, just like in the first one, but we start seeing something a little funky with Fane, and exploring and diversifying evil makes it less just, oh, it's the dark one, there's a big bad. So I really enjoy that.
Hard agree. Mandi, do you have one?
I do appreciate, as twisted as this might be, I appreciate getting into kind of that realm of Black Aja. Like, it starts off right away in the prologue. Wait,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
Aes Sedai and the Dark Shadow, or whatever, the Dark Gathering. And then, as much as I don't like her, what's our cornrow braided friend's name? It's slipping my mind, but oh my gosh, she's so fun to hate. So,
Talk
yeah,
about Leandrin.
it's
Yeah.
so fun to hate Leandrin because she's pure evil. She's my Cersei Lannister of the Wheel of Time series.
Nice.
Love
I
it.
think that's
Yeah.
giving her too much respect.
I'm really
The question
glad
is,
that
which
you
one,
brought that up,
Leandrin or
though.
Cersei?
That you brought up the Black Aja, because they were hinted at already in the Eye of the World, but that brought so much depth to the series when we get to see all out that, look at that, there she is, boom. Yeah, that definitely makes this a richer overall tale. So I agree. I love that part of it.
So one of my favorite things about this book is kind of in the middle, where it is a little bit slower, but it's the relationship that forms between Rand, Loyal, and Huron, and just kind of like how roles start to shift a little bit, and Rand is kind of forced to take the lead, and Loyal, just does what he can to support him, and just that relationship and that bond that's built between those three, going through this extremely weird situation where you go to sleep with the camp, with the group of soldiers that you're with, and you wake up and there's just three of you, and everything looks weird and everything's warped, and you don't know what's going on, and just how that dynamic reacted and how that trio bond formed. And I really, it's definitely something that I've noticed. It goes back to the nuances of the books, right? But it's definitely one of those things I've noticed on subsequent rereads, where I really appreciate that aspect of the story. And I mean, who doesn't love Loyal? And Mandi, who doesn't love Huron?
Absolutely.
I'm sure we could search and find somebody who's just very anti everything good in the world.
Yeah.
Well,
We have Leandrin.
Yeah. So this book does definitely introduce more darker things than the Eye of the World did. I mean, there's some bad things in the Eye of the World, but still the world is relatively good. Now we've got some darker stuff that comes in here. I mean, I think back to certainly right away in Faldara when the attack comes and the way that dungeon is left with the two heads just sitting on a table of the guards. I mean, ooh, and the room is covered in blood. Or
Whoops.
what happens to Dina in Kyrian.
oh,
Man, stick a dagger and just twist.
I think that's what they did.
It really took some
Or at least what
Oh,
Tom
sorry.
did, the other guy.
Sorry. I am Black Aja, by the way. I do apologize.
What are some of those other really like, whoa, dark moments that strike you from this book where you realize this is not going to just be another version of The Lord of the Rings? We're going dark in some ways.
I mean, for me, it's fairly obvious. It's already in chat, but hashtag it's time to nail a Thade. You know?
By the way, sorry to cut you off, Rob, but every time Mandi and I finish a book, we write a song about that book, and we invite Andrew Bar of Time with us, and then other guests as well. And for our second book, we had Rob as one of our guests, and that was his entry. When we went around trying to figure out what was going to make the cut, and I was taking a sip of my beer at the time when Rob threw out, and now it's time to nail a Thade, and I somehow held that sip in. I'm not quite sure how that happened.
It's a great song, yeah. It's just imagine Andrew's sultry tones with it, and now it's time to nail a Thade. You know,
And hashtag Andrew Isbay.
golden god of time.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway,
Definitely.
but yeah, I mean that moment when this evil creature has been basically up there with the one of the scariest creatures out there, and Fane has just been like, well, I'll just pin you to a wagon cart and nail you down until you die. Like, what? Yeah, A lot of scary moments in this. I enjoyed that a lot, to be honest. That's definitely, apart from the nuances, the gore and the scare, I enjoyed.
Discord is pointing out some of those things, like Zool's mentioned, referencing the piles of bodies and skinned people. It's like,
Yeah.
ugh. And then thinking to the chaos that the White Cloaks are doing on Toman Head, as well as the Shanchen. But when you're seeing, villages where people have just been killed, where children are hanging from trees, it's like, this is not a happy, cheery story here. There's darkness. But then to introduce something else that, boom, really is a dark and heavy thing, the Adam, and what we see with the
That was where
Soldam
I was
and the
going, yeah.
Damani. Yeah, so Zach, you were going to talk about that? Go ahead.
Slavery in period is not cool, but like
this is so much
the
worse.
extent that the Adam allows that idea to be taken, both emotionally, psychologically, mentally, physically, inflicting the different amount of control over that person's body, mind, and will, is ridiculous and horribly traumatic. We get to see just a little bit here in this book, and I'm sitting here going, I don't really want to see the side of experiencing any more than what we already got.
When you see that moment of absolute terror on a Soldam, when she realizes she can be collared, because she knows what she has been able to do to Damani, and now that it's going to be turned around on her, I mean, that tells you how bad it is. Horrifying.
This is very true.
Well, this podcast episode has taken a really dark turn.
We haven't
About sunshine and rainbows.
we haven't even gotten everything yet.
Let's talk about the nice things that happen in the book.
Yeah, we should talk about some.
There were nice things.
What were there any? Yeah.
One of
He's
my
always
favorite...
loyal. Yeah, we like loyal. Yeah.
But speaking of loyal, I love the scene in Kyrian when they start getting herded. Loyal and Rand, they start getting herded out of the city by these puppets, fake puppet Trollocs, right?
Right.
And they just keep getting herded, and so they just end up in the Illuminators Guild. And this only happens in fantasy, man. Except I kind of feel like I might have done this as a teenager as well. Just ended up somewhere I wasn't supposed to. And then they end up going into the guild, setting off fireworks, like blowing up a bunch of Trollocs. It's so going back, and that's right in the middle, lull. It's been kind of boring, not really a lot of build up, and then that happens just out of nowhere, and it's just fun. Like I think I do remember the first time I read it, just kind of being like, wait, what the hell is going on right now? All of a sudden, Trollocs just pop out and they blow them up. It's like, wait, wasn't like 5 pages ago they were just strolling through the streets, and now it's fun.
You're right. I'm so glad you brought that one up, because it's a very entertaining moment. I want to see this on television because it'll be a hoot. And just that moment when you can see this idea come into Rand's mind. Wait a second. What if I tip this on its side? And then to see him get blown backwards by it because he doesn't understand physics.
Physics don't apply in fantasy. What are you talking about? Just blow stuff up.
I know that it won't be done this way, but I really just imagine that whole scene as a Scooby-Doo chase. People running one way, twist back and forth, go in one door, out another. How'd that work? Physics. It's not a thing in fantasy, like you
come
said,
up
Rob.
through a trap door, it's no big deal.
That would be if Rafe just threw that in. It was like really serious, dramatic stuff. And
this is the best.
Threw in it, like going through the different doors. Oh my god! That would be the most brilliant thing ever.
You say that
with a scene of Tom playing music, and so you get the musical interlude over the top, and it's just like scenes of him telling a story and then running and back and forth and doors and whole
we've got a little Scooby-Doo dropped in the Discord. That's perfect.
We do.
That's exactly it.
There was a panel at a Jordan Con, which is what basically inspired my podcast, called Looney Theories. And it's just, you put out the craziest ideas and try and make it like close to plausible, but not make it actually plausible, but make it sort of fit. And one of the suggestions this year was basically part of the stories was, the Scooby Gang. and people were having so much fun with it. And one of the scenes people talked about involved the hallway scene where they're coming out of impossible doorways and stuff. So that's just brilliant that it's come. Zool's idea. There we go. I love that it's come up in this recording now. It's brilliant.
Definitely. Another fun moment from the stories. Our first time reader in our server, Emmeline, has posted it here now. The bit when Rand gets cornered in Barthanes' manor by the 3 women. First by 2 women, then the third, and he has no bloomin' idea what to do. And it's comical. I agree. Totally.
The Real Housewives of Kyrian, right?
I mean, I've heard that before, but yeah.
Somehow I feel like that'd be a more entertaining reality show.
Come on over and I'll play your flute. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest. He missed out on a lot of fun there, didn't he? Really? So.
Well, and Tom,
If he survived
Tom
it.
was like, "Oh yeah, that one. She'll give you an education." Yeah.
like every young man should have at some point. He basically says,
Yeah.
Mandy
Yeah.
Cat, you were gonna say something. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I just wanted to say for sure, I did love the character Huron throughout this whole book. He's such a humble, sweet guy doesn't he have a mullet or something? And I always pictured him almost as like Dobby from Harry Potter, just like, I'm here to please you guys, but I'm also a little timid and afraid. But I'm here to please you, like,
I love it.
okay,
I love
you
it.
told me to do that, I gotta do it. And he hates being this, that he can smell evil. He hates it, but sorry. So.
Yep, totally. And then his transformation when he gets to Kyrian, and he's so much more now, Lord Rand, my lord, what can I do for you? And then he gets to that point in Barthanes' manor with, hey Rand, what's up? These guys suck. I don't want to be like them anymore. That's a funny moment.
Mm-hmm.
Little things. We enjoy these things. All right, Rob, you said something early on that if you were going to rate this book in comparison to all the other books, and you said 14, but of course there are 15 books.
Yes, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That poor prequel always gets short shrift. But where did you rank it? What number would you rate it? Because I'm going to then ask everybody else. Where would you put this book? Now, that means for Mandy, out of 4 books, you're rating. Okay, so...
Why is it when I talk to you, Jim, that...
We make you make hard decisions.
Every time that I talk to Jim and Zach, it's like, so let's rate this from like 1 to...
It's a theme.
You came on my podcast, and I know it was my idea, but that's what
we just like making you be divisive.
Thank you so much for going first, Rob, so I can
all right,
sit down and actually think about it.
So where am I putting this from a scale of 1 to 15 to give credit to the prequel?
And let's be clear. Let's say number 1 is number 1. Okay, so 15 is the bottom of the line.
15 is the worst of the best.
Yes,
because it's Robert Jordan. They all rock. So
absolutely.
I don't know. Probably somewhere in the... I'm going to say 8th, maybe. Yeah, 8th. I think.
Okay. I noticed nobody in Discord is jumping in with theirs, so they're all also going, "Oh, criminy, what would I rate it?"
Yeah, they were like, "This is not a Rob podcast. This is a Jim and Zach podcast. They won't ask us to rate anything, Yeah, watch out, folks. I'm here."
All right, Zach, how about you? Since you kind of dissed this book, solid 13.
I don't have to think. It's a 13.
But wait, that's
there
so
are
low.
2 below it.
That's what I go to. What's below it for you,
Yeah,
Zach?
yeah.
Now you got to give.
I'll tell you, it's not one that we've read so far, and I can't actually say yet. I'll say when we get to that book. You can ask me then.
Well, you don't have to say why.
Give a number.
New Spring is the bottom for me. New Spring's the bottom.
Okay, that's my 15 as well. So that'll be easy. All right.
And then 14 is one of the middler ones. I'm gonna be honest, it's gonna take me actually going back and checking which book is which to make sure.
Gotcha. I'll go ahead and just say I put The Great Hunt as number 5 for me. There's definitely 4 others that I think are even better, but Great Hunt has risen for me. I enjoy this book. Definitely. I'm going to give Twitch more time to think because he's got to work with 15 books here. So, Mandy Cat, of the first 4, where do you rate The Great Hunt?
I'm actually trying to remember if I dislike The Dragon Reborn a little bit more, but I think this is number 4. The Great Hunt is number 4. 3, Dragon Reborn.
Which is number 1 for you, Mandy.
The Shadow Rising. Yeah.
All right. All
And
right. A strong book.
yes.
Yep. Which we will not talk about.
I was gonna say I have my reason, but I won't say it.
There you go.
Okay, so I would put The Great Hunt is right there for a 5 to 6 with Winter's Heart. I can't decide which one's better, but it's right there in that 5 to 6 range.
All right. Sounds like we have a fairly similar idea then of how these books rate. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. Well, let's move on to another topic here then.
Sure, let's do it.
We have some characters in The Great Hunt that are new POV characters, ones that we hadn't been able to see through their eyes before, and it adds a rich element to what's going on in the story. I mean, we still don't have Matt. It's like, come on.
Which ticks
We want to
me
know what's Matt
off.
think. Yeah. we still don't have a Matt POV, but
Do you want a Matt influenced by the dagger POV?
well, I wouldn't want him in
Yes!
Eye of the
Yeah.
World, but I would take him now, in The Great
I
Hunt.
want him at every weird point. I want just at least one chapter in each book that we can see where that is, even if it's really dark.
There we go.
because I think it's
Rafe,
interesting.
we know you listen, obviously.
Absolutely.
You just go back and just fix season 1 and give us a proper Matt POV, like uber dark, like dagger, just written. There we go.
I think we'll get that. I think during Ran and Matt's journey, I think we'll get a lot of paranoia from Barney Harris, and I think he'll be able to play it really well. That is definitely something that I think they'll give us.
Well, I hope so. Absolutely.
It would be good.
What other POV characters that we did get now particularly did it for you? We're like, that's good.
We got more Moraine.
Oh, well, I was gonna say, was this the first? No, that it happens earlier in the book, right? Or,
Technically, like the epilogue of Eye of the World, we get Moraine.
I think that's the first Moraine POV right there, that last
okay.
epilogue. Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
Is this the first time we get Pat on Fane perspective, or was he in the Eye of the World as well?
I believe this is the first time.
I think so.
And that's got to be the best for me, that we get to see through
Yeah.
Pat and Fane more than once in this book.
Very dark.
Not to beat a dead horse, but if we get Pat and Fane, why couldn't we get even one Matt? Just
Well, instead of Matt, you were given. I've got some figures here. If you want it, if you'd like me to throw them out.
Why not?
You get 13.49% of the book as Egwene, 7.58% as Nynaeve, 7.44 Moraine, 4.37 as Perrin, 3.87 as Bale, which I've just remembered properly, and I love Bale Doman. He's one of my
Absolutely.
favorites.
Discord was
be
giving
great.
some love to Bale right now.
There we go. 2.1 of Pat and Thane, 2.06 of Min. You get 2.04 of Jashin. I can never say his right name. The white cloak guy.
Jacob Carradine.
Jacob, that's it. I always say it
Jacob
wrong
Carradine.
because I read it and want to say something at Jacob. Then you get 1.74 of Jeffrey Bornhold, 1.06 of Tom, 0.85 Leandrin, and you even get a 0.05% POV of the book from Jarrett Bayar. But no, Matt.
Child Buyer, man. What
Mhm.
a dirtbag.
Really?
He gets 6%. He gets a grand total 6% of chapter 48.
And even that was too much.
Oh my God,
What's
I
that?
forgot
That's
that
like
we
2
got
paragraphs so that he can blame Perrin and be on his way.
Yeah,
He's
pretty much.
gross.
Pretty much. Having all these different POVs, though, and knowing how well Robert Jordan does the unreliable narrator is fantastic. We see so much from the different point of views, and we really never know what's truly going on. I think that makes for fantastic reading. One of the things that I come away from this book with, thinking especially back to my first time read, was what's got to be going on in Rand's mind with this friggin' dude with burning eyes that just won't die. No matter what he seems to do, he keeps coming back. He finished him the first time, and then here he is again, and he's showing up. He's messing with his saddlebags. He's showing up at the end, and still, did I kill him? Maybe? No one saw a body? What's going on? It's got to be messing with his head.
In all this conversation that we've been having, we have not once talked about the blowing of the horn. We have not once talked about the heroes coming in. We haven't.
Because there's so much good stuff. You're right.
We haven't really talked about Nynaeve and Elaine forming a plan and getting Min involved to rescue Egwene, and Egwene hitting Rena in the stomach with that pitcher. Sorry, I'm not sure if it's okay to swear on your podcast.
We're fine.
But,
We're fine.
But,
I don't do it,
yeah.
but you're free to.
You got to use the F word to describe that, because that is just epic, right? We haven't touched on any of the end of the book. We've been so focused on the middle, but that ending is, like I said in the beginning, it's just such an avalanche. It's just such a fun ride. Like, I want to get on that roller coaster and just do the loop-de-loops, and it's
Absolutely.
Just
I mean, that is so classic for me when Matt finally goes, I could blow this thing. It might do something. And then his reaction.
He was so casual about it, wasn't he?
Hashtag let Barney blow.
He was, but then when they show up, okay, here comes the heroes, and I swear Matt's reaction is, that's all you got? I was really expecting a better show to show up here. What? You guys? That's it?
Yeah, he got the golden ticket, and he walks up to the gates and be like, "It's only 1,000 square feet. What you call this?"
And back to your question about Rand, this whole book, I still really saw him as that sweet little country boy, just confused and like, when will I get back home? But yeah, like for real though, I think that very end piece, when he's fighting in the clouds, like that does prove something. But until that moment, he's still that sweet little country kid.
Right. So after that moment's happened, do you believe, just based on these first two books, first time reader going through it, do you believe that they would believe, has Rand accepted that he's the Dragon Reborn? What's in his head at this point? Is he, I have to believe it now? Or is he still like, no, I don't want to, and where is his mind on this? What do you think?
So there's that moment where the heroes ride down and they all congregate right in the midst of the party, and they all look at Rand and they refer to him as Lews Therin, and they're like, we need a banner. And Rand he's been resisting this banner the whole time. Like, we didn't talk about him going back into the inn when it was on fire to rescue Huron and to get the banner, right? And he just pulls it out, gives it to Perrin. Perrin cuts down a tree, wraps it, ties it to it, and he accepted it. I know there's not, no spoilers past this point, but I do think that he's figuring out how to come to grips with this, because this is heavy. Like, this is a heavy thing.
Yeah.
And he needs to wrap his mind about it, and I think he deserves time to do that. But, so to answer your question, yes, I believe that this is where he starts to accept that he has no choice, that his free agency is gone.
Yeah, that is heavy.
So what ticks me off in a really good way, like, props to Robert Jordan, but like ticks me off. We've spent 2 books being told, don't believe people are unreliable narratives, the truth you hear may not be the truth you think it is, I said I truths, all this mess. And then he goes and in the second to last chapter ends it by having this whole thing. The Borderlanders are bowing to Rand. They're all kind of proclaiming him the dragon. He's like, death is lighter than a feather, duty heavier than a mountain. And it says he made his decision. It doesn't say shit about what that decision is. I'm sorry.
And when it first came out, you just hit cliffhanger. You gotta wait for the next book. Yep.
And clearly you think he's accepting finally, like you were saying, Twitch. But it doesn't say that.
I mean,
so what are we supposed to think?
It leads you, the situation leads you to believe that he is accepting he's the Dragon Reborn. But if you actually read the words, it doesn't confirm either way. So,
I mean,
it depends.
led Egwene and Nynaeve and all the others to believe they were helping the boys and Rand.
Well, I mean, we all know that Robert Jordan, everything he writes is literal, and we have to take everything at face value, right? Like, I'm just saying.
I would call it a very hesitant acceptance. See, I'd almost say no, he's not fully accepting it, but there's something about he's accepting something's going on, but I don't think he's accepted he's a Dragon Reborn. Yeah.
He doesn't want to be the Dragon Reborn. He does not want that. He doesn't want to channel.
They've grown up. They've grown up believing the Dragon Reborn is the boogeyman.
Yeah.
Who wants to be the boogeyman? Nobody.
Lews Therin Kinslayer, man. He killed his family. He created Dragonmount. Like, who wants to be that?
I would say at the end, the best way to describe it for me is that he's accepted that he can't get out of people thinking he's the Dragon Reborn. But he may not have accepted for himself that he is. Like, he's sitting there saying, well, I'm not sure, or I'm not, or however, he's running a million different thoughts for his heads for himself. But he's accepted that he can't convince anyone else if they believe he's the Dragon Reborn because of the situations they've been through. So there's a different, you can accept a situation that's being forced upon you without accepting it. You can be in a situation where you're like, okay, this is what's happening. This is what everyone believes. This is the story, but I don't believe it anyway. But the situation is forcing me to go along with it, and I don't have a choice.
Yeah, he can certainly accept that he can channel. He knows he can do that. That's undeniable. There's a big difference between, okay, I can channel and do stuff, and being this prophesied Dragon Reborn thing. Discord had commented, there's a difference between knowing and believing. So yeah, he knows he can do these things and he knows what's happening around him. That doesn't mean he necessarily believes he is this prophesied Dragon Reborn yet.
It would make sense. I'm working on no spoilers. It would make sense if he chose to go down a journey to figure out if he was the Dragon Reborn. Maybe he might try to start studying the prophecies. Like he's definitely gotten to the point where, yes, I've accepted, like Rob said, yes, I've accepted that I can channel. And so I should probably accept the fact that there are people who know more shit than I know saying that I'm this guy that I don't want to be. And yeah, it would make sense if he chose to seek this out and figure out, okay, how can I prove that I'm not? Or how can I prove that I am? Like, how do I get out of this situation?
Rand he needs to take a gap year and go on a walkabout. That's what he needs.
So much.
I like it. It. Now, you guys have done a nice job of really moving this to what I want us to talk about now. And that is, again, putting yourself in the mindset of all you know is the first two books. What do you want to know now? What has to happen? What do we have to have answers for? And if you were like me, when you read this book, maybe there wasn't another book yet. Okay, that's not actually true for me. I found the series when there was about 5 books out, but there were those poor people who had to wait. It wasn't that long. These first 3 books came out pretty quick, but still, what were you wondering? So what are the logical questions? And one of them we just talked about. Twitch, you said it, with what Rand is thinking of what he needs to figure out now, what's gonna happen. What else? I mean, I know for me, one of them is, okay, this sus lady called Celine, who we now know,
Celine
okay,
sus.
that's Lanfear. We got this figured out, okay? She's coming back. Okay, what's that gonna mean? What's going on there? How is that gonna manifest? What's that gonna mean? Is Min gonna get it later? I mean, what? That's a question, and I want to know. I wanted to know what's coming up.
When you say get it, you mean like, is the Celine Lanford person coming for her, or okay? Because getting it could have a totally different context.
You guys can't see, but
yeah, I tried to make a sound effect. I'm slicing across the neck there for Zoom, but you guys can't see that.
Why would I run my finger across his throat?
I don't know.
I want to call out chat here for a moment. There's a very hilarious section in the Fantasy for the Ages podcast Discord server, and it is very centric around a certain celebrity, and that celebrity is Taylor Swift.
Yep.
And there has been a picture just popped into the chat, the live recording, and it is a picture of Taylor Swift, and it just says across the top, "Think of the glory," and at the bottom it says Celine. So, ladies and gents, if you think that Taylor Swift could be Celine, come and join the Discord server here and have some fun.
There you go.
But there was a great question. There was a great question put in chat by your first-time reader, Emmeline, and it says, "Where have Moraine and Lan been?"
So
I think that's a great question.
Emmeline also put in about, is Lanfear one of Rand's ladies?
Yeah.
And I think that was on my mind too. Like, the Celine chick seems very invasive and certainly seems to have known this Luz guy, which I'm making an assumption that Rand is something from Luz's whatever regenerated however. But I'd actually say my genuine
Mhm,
question would,
mhm.
at the end, I hated the Seanchin. So true dread of what is to come, because that was not a over and done with type of thing. And that would be my concern ending book 2 is, uh-oh, I don't like these people and I don't like the slavery thing. So crap.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they left. They ran away like a dog, a beat dog with its tail between its legs. But that doesn't mean the dog doesn't come back later.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
what's to come? That's a great question.
and what happened with the White Cloaks? They got wiped out, but Child Buyer got away. So what's gonna come of that? How, what kind of implications does that have for the future? We know that he's got this belief in his mind. I'm pretty sure he mentions in one of the last chapters of the epilogue that's that what 0.06%
Yep.
that you're talking about,
Yep.
where he's like, oh, that damn Perrin Ibarra, he's the reason why my commander has been killed and I have to go tell his son. So what's the ramifications of that? Like, we already know that the White Cloaks are ridden into the Wheel of Time to be hated. Like, Robert Jordan did not write that group thinking that people were going to love them. And so it's like, I believe Mandi was talking about earlier, like, all these different villains, these other than just Forsaken, Pat and Fane, or maybe it was Rob, I can't remember. But yeah, so where is that? Are they going to become another villain?
Yeah.
I think the one question that I really had is Matt gonna be okay?
That was exactly my question.
They sent him off with the dagger, and they threw him off to Tarvalon. But like, is he gonna be okay?
I was like, what's happening with Matt? But also Perrin. Like, all right, we get a little bit more about what's happening with them in the story. The first book is extremely Rand POV and sort of a bit more Rand centric, but this one opens up a little bit more. We get a bit more of other people. And I was like, Matt looks like he's about to drop dead. Perrin looks like his world has ended. Rand is going through his whole situation. And that just continues on with the rest of them. You've got Egwene, and she's just been freed from being a slave. I was like, these kids are, what, 18, 17, 16, 20, things around there. And like, I don't know about the rest of you, but when I was that age, I would have been huddled in a corner after some of the things they've gone through or are going through. So
Right.
I was like, what? These kids are in...
I mean, I'm just barely over that, and I
There we
still
go.
would
Yeah,
be.
these kids are in serious trouble. And I was like, whoa, what more is going to happen to this group of kids?
Another thing we haven't talked about at all, except for just a little drop at the very beginning, is travel through the portal stone to get to Falm, the flicker, flicker, flicker scene. And to your point, Rob, when they get to Falm 4 months later, Perrin just looks at Rand and he's like, I guess we don't really have any choices. It always just ends up the same way. What the hell does that mean?
What? Yeah, what did they see?
Yeah.
What had those soldiers throwing up? What had Matt trying to basically, and Perrin basically like rip out their eyeballs and things of that nature? What did they see?
I feel like we get a decent glimpse of what happened with Matt, because first thing, Rand, I swear to God, I will never betray you. I will not.
Yeah.
That's not me. I will not do that. So obviously he betrayed him. And he probably betrayed him a lot of times, a lot of different times. You know what I mean? Like, or a lot of different ways.
And we get Ingtar too. He shares that he was never able to do it, right? He
Yeah.
was never able to get the horn or whatever. He's always blocked.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, pretty
Yeah.
intense.
Exactly. But we don't get what we don't really. All we get from Perrin is we don't have any agency. It's always gonna end up that way. What the? How does it always end up? Oh my God, that's intense. I want to know that answer.
Yeah, that's so much. And also, I don't know, is it a spoiler to say how many books were out when I was reading this one? That's okay to say, is it, Jim? I can say.
You can say
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
So there were 6 or 7 books out when I picked up the series. So I got to the end of this book knowing there's at least 4 or 5 more books to go. And I was like, how much more can happen in that many books? That hasn't already happened, and that thought process must be worse for people reading now
And
when
we
they're like,
had no idea.
there's 10 more books to go, 12 more books, or 13 more books, like
We Originally, it was supposed to be a trilogy. Then they pushed it to 5 to 7, ambiguously, and then it went to maybe 10. And Brandon Sanderson picked it up after book
To write
11,
one more.
and to write one more. And he
Yeah, and
looked
then
at the
Robert Jordan left him a
material,
stack of notes
Right.
bigger, taller than his house,
and he looked at these notes, and he's like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
And
There's
thank
so
God.
much good stuff in here, and
Yeah.
and we could keep talking. Literally, we could keep talking for hours. We're not going to do that. I think we're going to kind of bring this towards a wrap up here now. But there's one last scene that I just want to talk about briefly and just see. This was like, good scene, well done. And if you agree, but when Ingtar reveals that he was not all on the up and up, when he admits what he had done to Rand, and Rand basically absolves him, I was like, yeah, well done, Rand. Well done. What did you guys think when you read that? Did you have the same reaction? Did you were like, what? I mean, what were you thinking when you came across that scene?
Yeah, I'll start because I've mentioned Ingtar. I saw it the whole book. He was way too greedy for the horn the whole time, so he was definitely not a great guy. Granted, I didn't maybe understand the extent of everything, but I just feel like that weird, and I can't remember every detail of that chapter, but Ingtar just starts going on about Rand. You're not seeking glory. You're here to help them. And like that's why I said earlier he had a redemption moment, and I think Rand recognized it and saw this dude's sincere. Like it was probably intuition on Rand's part, but I liked it. And of course I'm an Ingtar friend, but I was totally like, oh, bedside redemption, like you're about to die and you just went back to the light. Good job, bud.
Nice.
I love that Ingtar friend.
Ingtar friend.
It's better than a dark friend.
I mean, I feel that should be, instead of saying like I'm an Egwene stan or a Matt stan or anything like that, it should be like I'm a Ingtar friend,
Hashtag Ingtar friend. There you go. Put it in there.
Sorry, but carry on, Twitch. I got
Someone will hashtag it, right?
That's right.
It's
That's
inevitable.
right.
I agree with Mandi. First time I read it, I didn't have a community to talk to. I talked to my brother and his fiance a little bit about it because they're the ones that introduced it to me, and I was living with them at the time, but I didn't really have people to process what I was reading. And so when I do clearly remember when I first read that scene, I was surprised. Ingtar was zealous, but he had a good reason. And honestly, if there's a good reason to turn to the dark, Ingtar's reason was more noble than most. He wanted to save his people. And he thought the only way to do it was to know the enemy's mind and to try and
compromise a little.
Yeah, exactly. Try and save his people. Yeah. So I can empathize with that. I don't have to agree with it, but I can empathize with that. Ingtar's a tragic character. He's one of my favorites. It really, just talking about it brings up emotion.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, so your take is very similar to how we feel about Zach. We can empathize with his opinions, but disagree with them.
Speaking of those,
whoa.
Go ahead, Zach.
Wait,
give us your counter
do you need
thought.
some burn cream there, Zach? I felt
because I'm about to rub it in a little worse here. Don't get me wrong. I love Ingtar. I love his redemptive moment there, all that. But like reading it, I sit here and go, this is the Titanic all over again. There's room on the raft. Yes, Ingtar can hold people back and get them time, but he probably could have run with them too. I'm hoping the show makes it very clear it's necessary for him to make that sacrifice, but I'm sitting here going, he's redeemed? Let's have more of him. Why is he self-sacrificing? Why?
He wanted to blow the horn to save his people, right? That was his goal. To sacrifice himself, I think, was his way out.
And that's the thing. It feels a little cop-out-ish, which stinks to say because I don't believe that to be true. I don't believe that to be true.
That's fair.
Just goes that way.
So it's fun that my opinion was almost last and is probably going to be the least favorable, but I didn't see him being a dark friend coming. I felt that, there was something about him where I was like, you should be a bit more composed than this sort of thing. So when it was revealed, I almost didn't kind of instantly go to, oh, he's a dark friend or something like that. I did feel that suddenly it was a bit unnecessary. I agree there, Zach, that I was like, oh, you've suddenly got to stop here and hold them back. I didn't realize, I didn't feel that they were that close behind or it was that serious a situation. I also am not a fan of, I'm about to die, so just to cover all my bases, I'll suddenly be like, I'll pick this or pick that. The deathbed confession. I kind of feel like I understand it and I get it. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen or it's not sincere if it does happen, but it always feels a little bit like, just in case I'll say this sort of thing. And it's like, so it wasn't a total, like, I didn't, when it was revealed, I wasn't like, oh, it doesn't make sense, or I didn't see it coming. But when I found out, I was like, oh, okay, well, it kind of fits with how he's been behaving. So I don't see the necessity for him to die here. It is a bit of a cop-out that you suddenly be like, well, okay, I'll come back to light just at the last moment. Yeah. But yeah, it felt a bit rushed, I suppose. So when I read it the first time, I was like, wait, what just happened? And I kind of had to go back and it was like, oh, okay. So it didn't impact me the same way on my initial read. On rereads, you see the foreshadowing, you understand the situation, you know what's happening, you read it with a different understanding and more empathy. Because with more knowledge, you understand the situation better and you can see it better. So, I totally understand why he was behaving the way he was, his idea for joining the darkness. But on the first reread, it didn't hit me emotionally. It wasn't as impactful. However, I will say that it is a huge highlight for Rand because that's such a mature moment for him. The way he reacted to Ingtar and what he said, I was like, huge respect for that moment. Like for someone that young in the story and what they're going through, to take that moment, and it felt very peaceful. That his reaction, the way Rand handled that was chef kiss moment. So.
Totally. Twitch, you had said a moment ago that you felt Ingtar wanted to blow the horn. He wanted to be the one to blow the horn to save Shannara.
Yes.
I always saw it a little different, and I saw Zool put in our Discord the way I see it more, that he wanted to save Shannara with the horn in order to save himself.
Yeah.
That was his redemption.
And I was going to bring that up as well. Jordo had also put that in chat, saying that he wanted to blow the horn to stop being like he figured if he blew the horn for the light, it would quit him being a dark friend. And I totally get that, and I skipped over it.
All right, all good. All right, this has been fun. Thank you for coming and diving into all of this with us. And there are still things that when people are listening to this later, they're going to be like, wait, you didn't talk about... And there are things. It's such a rich story.
I would very quickly need to point out, we did not even dabble in the Dark Friend social.
Nope. See?
Didn't
opening scene of the story. Yeah. And there's so much there. Now, part of why I think we can't is it's so dangerous because there's so much to come tied to that, and so maybe that's why we didn't spend much
come
time
back to
there.
that in 13 books.
Yeah. we'll do the full spoiler episode that's like special edition at some point, so
there you go.
And that's that's another question to be answered in the next books. Who is the man who calls himself Wars?
I just want to know what flavor ice cream they were serving there, so
All right. Well,
sorry to interrupt you there, Jim.
No, that's all good. As we wrap this up, then, I do want to, again, officially thank our guests. You guys have been incredible and so helpful in making this a bigger and better episode to finish a book with. It's an exciting journey for us on the podcast going through all of these and to celebrate next level when we finish a book. Thank you for being here and helping with that. Rob, if people want to know, hey, how can we hear more of that guy? His ideas were cool and stuff. Tell us where they can find you.
Well, for those one or two of you out there that might think my ideas were cool and I'm not just a dark friend, go searching for Malkier Talks. You will find I'm the only Malkier Talks on YouTube. I've searched for myself. If you even just Google Malkier Talks, you will only find me, which I am so thrilled about. But yeah, podcast apps, I'm on all of them pretty much. I don't think no one's come to me, but I can't find you on this station. So find me on a podcast app if you like full spoilers. I do have one spoiler-free bit with a first-time reader. We're only on chapter 18 or 19 of The Eye of the World, so it's very slow. He reads like a chapter a month, it feels like, bless him, on to and from work. But he's my friend. We used to work together at my previous job, so that's just that. But yeah, if you like spoilers, come to that. If you like YouTube stuff, it's usually pretty full spoilers, except for the cooking videos, because I don't usually give much of the book there. I usually just say, this is where it's from, the scene where, this person cooked that dish while they're here. And that's usually as much context as I give. So they're pretty safe. Narrations, they're labeled of what book and chapter they are. So you can go to those if you've read past that and you can listen. And yeah, if you like jokes, go find me on Twitter at Malkier. They're spoiler jokes though. So again,
They're fun.
But they are fun. And sometimes people love them, sometimes they groan. And either way, I'm happy.
Awesome.
And if you like Pictionary and you enjoy puppets and craziness and chaos, come find me at Watchnary the first Sunday of every month because I co-host that.
Absolutely. Fantastic fun. Again, Rob is somebody who, if you're going to go check his stuff out, do so with caution if you're a first-time reader. There's just like you said, there's a few things you'd be okay with, but there's a lot of it that, you blew that.
Yeah,
So,
hit me up directly if you want to know, and I can pre-approve you. Or I've got a couple of mods in the server if you're in Discord, and they'll be able to help you as well. So
perfect. And Twitch, Mandicat, how about for you guys? How can they find more of what you guys are all about? Where do they find you?
We are pretty much on all of the apps and anywhere you get your podcast. I'm pretty sure we're there. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Gleeman Twitch. You can find Mandi Cat on Instagram.
Yep, the Gleeman's Apprentice pod.
Yep. And our episodes, we're just going through the first 4 books, basically on a reread with Mandi Cat, and then once we get to book 5, we're smooth sailing after that. And we end every episode. Mandi Cat, do you want to?
Oh yeah, we get to end every episode with a Marry Kill, which is worth listening to. I mean, just for the record, Lan always wins,
Love
so
it.
sometimes we have
yes.
to go beyond Lan for and marrying. And then at the end of every book, Twitch mentioned this earlier, Andrel Bard of Time helps us write a song. And Malkier Rob actually joined us for Eye of the World. So go ahead and listen to that one. Or was it The Great Hunt?
For the Great Hunt.
The Great Hunt.
For the Great Hunt.
I would have joined for the next book as well, but then Twitch decided to schedule it on my actual birthday, and I drew the line. I dive into everything, and I was like, I can't record on my birthday. I'm sorry. Have a great time.
So I tried to schedule it the week before, but that was Andrel's birthday. And
yeah,
sorry, Rob, you are
It's fine.
amazing, but
These
but
blooming name
Andrel's
days.
Andrel's a little bit more.
Oh, hell yeah.
Necessary.
Yeah, and the Golden God of Time absolutely comes first, especially in that scenario. So
But
I have no fear.
I did want to say real fast that I love everything you guys do, Jim and Zach. You guys are amazing. I love following you on Twitter. Rob is a gem. Everybody, and I always, every time I'm on
cut this out of the podcast now.
every time I'm on with Rob, I just have to go off about how amazing Rob is, and I know I'm not alone in that thought. And everything he does for this community,
Here.
is just absolutely amazing. And I'm always blessed to be in content with Rob because he's just chef's kiss, like you said.
Thank you. Well, this has been a blast. When I found out, like, Zach and Jim, when you invited me on, I was like, yes, because I had so much fun when you came on my podcast, and you could do full spoilers, which I'm sure was fun for you too as well.
That was a blast.
Absolutely, yes. And I was like, but then you said Twitch and Mandi Cat. I was like, oh my God, I can see Mandi Cat and Twitch. It's like, I'm having Christmas now. So, this has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed this.
Fantastic. Again, listeners, if you're not familiar with the Gleeman's Apprentice podcast, go check it out. They're covering Wheel of Time. We're covering Wheel of Time. But everybody brings a different perspective to what they do and a different style and tone. I love listening to their podcast. So you would too. Now, there's only so many hours in a day. So I'll be selfish and say if you have to pick, start with ours. And with the time you have left, go listen to theirs too. They're great. But seriously, just squeeze in as many as you can in a day. What else do you have to do?
Yeah, you've only got to sleep for 8 hours. There's 16 hours a day for listening to podcasts.
You could just absorb it in your sleep. That's fine.
Do you really only need to sleep? Like, I live off of 5. Come on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm probably got less than that, yeah.
Just start trimming it down, yeah. All right. Well, Zach, let's do our regular finish up here. Again, listeners, thank you for being with us here today. If you like what you hear, we encourage you to share that with the world in some ways. Go and rate the podcast wherever you listen, especially Apple Podcasts. They make it so easy. Drop those 5 stars. Again, not one, please, not one. Ignore us if you think one. Stop listening. That's good. We won't force this on you. But if you're enjoying this, go give us a 5-star rating. And if you have some time, write a review a little bit, and we'll read your review out here. We've got a few out there, and we've done that for them. So cheap way to get yourself on the podcast. Write us a review.
Mm-hmm.
Zach, how else can they get a hold of us?
If you want to contact us directly, you can always reach out through our email, fantasyfortheages@gmail.com, or find us on a couple of social medias, including... We are still on Facebook, but also our drink recipes that end up on Instagram and various other content that comes out daily on Twitter. That's one of our best ways to reach us. And if you check the show notes on this or any of our episodes, you can find a link to our Discord where you can come and chat with us. And while this episode today was live and open for anyone and everyone, usually live is for our patrons. So if you want to come and chat with us live, go check out our Patreon.
Yep, I'll have links, as he said, for all those in our show notes. Thank you again for being here. Zach, you got anything else?
I got nothing.
So we'll all say goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Everybody can shout in a goodbye.
Thank you,
There
guys.
go.
Taisha, Fantasy for the Ages. Taisha, Gleeman's Apprentice.
There you go. We'll talk to you next time.